Special call meeting of Milton City Council for Monday, January 28, 2013 to order. Will the city clerk please call roll or make general announcements?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be happy to call roll for the January 28, 2013 special called meeting. I will waive the reading of the rules and general announcements. As I call roll, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Here.
Councilmember Karen Thurman.
Here.
Councilmember Matt Coots.
Here.
Councilmember Bill Luss is absent. Councilmember Burt Hewitt.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Longoria is absent.
I would, before the clerk continues, like to make an announcement. The Councilmember Longoria, having a quorum here present in the room, will likely join us by conference call for one of the agenda items, so that just needs to be made for the record.
Okay.
And Councilmember Lance Large, absent. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So Joe's got his own private candy basket out.
Okay, let's go to the agenda. We've got a couple of staff's recommended we add a executive session to discuss land acquisition. And do we have anything else on the agenda? Changes. Okay, I'll open up for a motion to approve our agenda.
Should we all make a motion to approve the agenda as prepared by staff?
I'll second it.
And that includes the addition of
With the inclusion of
executive session to discuss land acquisition. Is that second by you,
I
Karen?
second it.
Motion by Councilmember Coots, second by Councilmember Thurman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Do we have any public comment?
We do not, sir.
Yeah, we'll move on. You'll call the first business item.
Consideration of an amended intergovernmental agreement for the development and implementation of a unified radio system by and among the cities of Milton, Alpharetta, Roswell, and Sandy Springs, Georgia. This is agenda item number 13025. Mr. Chris Lagerblum.
Mayor and members of the council, this is a quick agenda item tonight. This is one you've seen before. It came before you, I believe, about a month and a half ago. It included a fifth partner in this, and that was the city of Johns Creek. Johns Creek did not adopt that IGA, and therefore it became a non-binding agreement. They have elected to continue to study this topic. The four cities, our recommendation is to continue to move forward without them, and therefore this document that you see tonight is simply an agreement between the cities of Alpharetta, Milton, Roswell, and Sandy Springs. In the better bulk of the document, there are no changes. The thing that changes to some degree is the last page, which is Exhibit A, which is the subscribers' weighted shares of cost. Because of our population and number of radios, you can see there our radio count's less than 100. Really, we're impacted the least of the other three cities in having Johns Creek sit this one out. Our weighted share went from about 12.5% to about 15.2%. The capital contribution based upon the initial capitalization of cost not to exceed, and keep in mind that is a cost not to exceed $16 million. Here's $2.433 million. That is up from what you saw in the last one at about $1.9 million and change. That is something that we can absorb. We would fund that, and I would seek your approval of funding that out of our existing unallocated fund balance. We're still in a position that we can acquire this needed items with cash and move forward with the bringing of a unified radio system to North Fulton County in these four cities. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Again, this is really a document you've seen and heard and have voted on once. There's just the one modification change.
Okay, and I just want to ask a question, just clarify. I know there's been, talk from Johns Creek. The reason they're not included in on this is they didn't like the process, but just to confirm, I know our city manager's been involved from day one, and our city attorney has looked at everything, and just want to confirm for the record that you guys are comfortable with the process, that everything had gone through.
I'll answer that first, then I'll let Kenny answer it. He can disagree if he chooses to. But I'm comfortable that the process has been sound, it's been fair, it's been appropriate. The acquisitions that would happen as part of this agreement would happen either off the state contract or after a competitive bid process. Matter of fact, I saw one of the written RFPs this morning. It was the first of several RFPs that will in fact go out to secure project management as well as the public works construction component of it. So I sit here tonight without any bit of hesitation and indicating that the process has been appropriate and that the policies and the laws have been followed.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, I confirm with what the city manager said. We have gone out of our way, actually, and have been very, very cautious in drafting this, and for a reason, and it's because this is basically an agreement that would lend itself to having an authority being in charge of it. We don't have that authority yet, but we're going to. We believe we will. But in the absence of that authority, with Sandy Springs acting as the procurement agent, we have gone out of our way to ensure that the public procurement laws of the state of Georgia are followed and that Sandy Springs procurement laws are followed. There's been a lot of legal eyes looking at this in addition to mine, and I am comfortable with it. And I have gone out of my way to make sure we are conservative.
Okay. And I also, I wanted to add the fact that Councilmember Kuntz and I both enjoyed a full day Saturday at the GMA courses on municipal finance, and these same type of things were talked about, and it just added another comfort level to us that this is the correct process. The other thing, just to state for the record, with the position of Milton geographically, and this, if Milton were not to go along with this agreement with the other cities, it would put us in a bad position as far as public safety and whatnot, because Fulton County, we've got 3 large cities in between us and Fulton County. So I just wanted to kind of confirm that and make that statement too, that it makes the most sense for our citizens and the safety to go along with the other cities and all be together rather than be on the far end.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more there. We kind of, it's one of those things where we make a good decision, but we make a good decision because of a host of events that lead us there. One other thing, and then I don't get the council member's question, one of the other things I want to mention, because Ken mentioned it in his comments, it was this whole authority language that this intergovernmental agreement would tide us over until that authority is created. I talked with people in Sandy Springs this morning, and Representative Willard, the Sandy Springs City Attorney, as well as House of Representatives member, has indicated he intends on introducing that authority legislation either later this week or the first part of next week. And just to bring everybody up to speed, 3 of the 4 of them were there. But when we met with Speaker Jones last week, she indicated she would, because of the importance of that authority legislation, she would assist in trying to get that through the legislature on an expedited timeline, because she knows that it's important to North Fulton and the community. So.
Okay. Matt, I think you had a question.
Yeah, just a couple questions real quick. The obviously, because one of the cities is no longer in, refresh my memory, did the capital contribution of $16 million, did that decrease because one city was in? I don't remember the original figure.
It didn't, and that's the unfortunate thing about how this system was actually, the geography of how the system is actually built, is the same system needs to be built, even with the reduction in scale. Now, it happened to be that the reduction in scale was on the east side, and because of the coverage area that Alpharetta needs over there in the area of Kimmel Bridge and State Bridge Road, that it wasn't as though we could reduce a site location and build a less system and still have a footprint that matched the criteria for the 4 cities. We would have been a different story, for example. If we had decided that we didn't want to do this any longer, now the system probably does shrink, because you don't need a tower up at Station 43 or up in that Birmingham area. But the fact that the non-participating cities on the east side positioned as they were, we don't get to build a less or a smaller system. It wasn't scalable based just upon the geography.
Gotcha. And based on what we talked about in our GMA class, the additional funds are coming out of the general fund, which we don't have currently procured somewhere else.
That is correct.
Okay. And how much would we have left in the general fund?
You're talking about the unallocated fund balance.
Yes. That's what I'm thinking,
what you're
yes.
talking about.
Right.
That's a number that I don't want to spot you at exact to the penny,
Right.
But it's in the $8 million range at this point, and that's a range.
Right.
We're required by a matter of law to keep our reserves at about 2.6 million of that. This has been and is intended to be a cash purchase. Part of the funds have already been appropriated to capital projects. right? So the remaining gap that we need to fill to be able to actually make the acquisition and the additional money now because of the increase in percentage would come out of the unallocated fund.
All right, and the last question, Sandy Springs is gonna be the one collecting payment, I guess, from everybody, is that, but that's written in here as well, so, I'm sure they'll do a pretty good job at doing that, because the bill, I guess, would officially go straight to them, is that?
It will. As a part of this IGA, what it calls for is that Sandy Springs will act as the procurement agent, and they will also hold title until the title can transfer to the authority upon the creation of the authority. The document speaks to the creation of the authority. At this point, you want without getting too in the weeds of how we've gotten to this point, you really want a municipality making the acquisition of this to then transfer the assets into the authority, because the municipality can acquire these goods without paying sales tax, where an authority would in fact pay sales tax. It's about an $800,000 swing in structuring it in this model versus having the authority make the acquisition outright.
Karen?
A couple questions. Number one, I know part of the reason Johns Creek chose not to enter into this with us is they felt like that there was a chance that the radios could be obtained and the service could be obtained cheaper. Are you comfortable that that's not the case?
Well, I don't know that I necessarily, that's a question that could have a couple of different answers to it. Do we have the possibility that there is a less expensive system out there somewhere? Possibly. The thing is, we were designing this system to move us into the 21st century and into a system that's going to last for 20 years, is who has established a proof of concept that can show that this exists and has been successful somewhere. Now, when you put that into the mix, then I am comfortable in telling you that this is the system that we need to build, and this is a system that we can acquire that has already been competitively bid on the state contract. So to suggest that there's a vendor out there that would come in and cut under this price, potentially so. My concern, though, is that we would absolutely be getting a system that didn't have demonstrated success anywhere else.
So you feel comfortable this is the right system for the long term, for the right price?
I do, and it is the right thing for our region. It's also the right thing for us at this point because of decisions that have been made that put us into this region that we're in, known as North Fulton County. As you recall, in December, before the first of the year, Sandy Springs moved forward with the acquisition of phase 1 of this system without us, without Alpharetta, without Roswell, without Johns Creek, without anybody else's participation. And they moved forward and said, we are going to go forward with a phase 1 with or without you. Now that's important to know that piece of the puzzle, because that decision gets made, and they didn't come here and ask us if we thought that was a good idea. They just did it. Roswell indicated their acknowledgement and willingness to participate. Alpharetta did. As you know, we're dispatched by Alpharetta, so we're kind of the fourth domino in this decision making. So I want to make sure that I answer your question that you asked, but I also frame it that there's an assortment of different things coming from all different directions that, in addition to price and performance, also weighed in on the decision. There's certain things we can do and certain things we can't do, and once that first domino fell and others got in line, this is the most cost-effective, good solution that's going to provide for the safety of our, number one, our public safety people and talking to each other. Number two, the ability of the dispatchers to put our public safety people in places they need to be because they have a radio they can communicate on. I said this once before, and I'll say it again, that it's not a matter, we've been studying this for almost 3 years. It's not a matter of when the radio is going to fail. It already is failing. And we have system failures on a more frequent basis than I think you all would find acceptable. I certainly don't find it acceptable. And so it's not a matter of if that's going to happen again. It's when it's going to happen and for how long. So that's the thing that we've been lucky so far with, is that if it goes down, it's been down for half a day while we've located replacement parts, and we've all had sufficient redundancies in place that we can flip switches and go on to redundant, although not long-term solutions. We at least continue to communicate. It's the one that keeps me up at night is the one that all of a sudden the system gets down and I can't get the replacement part here for less than 21 days because one exists somewhere out on the West Coast. That's the one that worries me. Is that we're not dealing with a 4-hour outages, we're dealing with a multi-day outage, and that's why if there ever was a time to move forward and to and to move forward collectively as a region, for the bettering of the public safety of our communities, I think now. So.
And my second question is, if Johns Creek decides down the road that this is their best alternative, then I assume we go back to the price, closer to the price that we originally thought we were going to be paying, because they will be sharing in it with us.
You're considering an IGA tonight, and that IGA creates a board of managers. Presumably, that board of managers will then turn into some version of an authority board. That authority board or that board of managers, one of the tasks is to deal with those that decide they want to be either contributing subscribers at a later date or non-contributing subscribers at a later date. I have, as a person who potentially will have the opportunity to sit on that board, I have my own personal opinion as to how I think that might work out longer term. I can't though single-handedly tonight sit and say that this is the mechanism in which Johns Creek would come on with, because it's going to be a decision that is made by more than just me. I would think that if Johns Creek decided at some point that they wanted to be a part of the system, I would think that there would be the desire to have them as a part of the system. I mean, obviously, regional concepts are only as strong as broadening the region, right? So whether or not that they would be welcomed as contributing subscribers, I don't know. But I do think at the very least that they would be eligible as subscribers.
And our amount would not go up; it would go down, if anything.
This would be this would be a scalable thing. There are some things that we are talking through at this point that we don't need to acquire because of Johns Creek coming on board. Like, for example, we had a discussion this morning, if they're not going to come on board, then they don't need consoles down at their dispatch center. So, there are things that we're carving out of the system now to right size it that obviously that they would have to absorb the cost of and pay for if at some point in the future they decide this is the fix for them. But again, we're making a decision for Milton, and they need to make the decision that's best for them.
Yeah.
Just one more question. If one of the other cities that's on this list does not pass this IGA becomes null and void, then at that point.
That's
right?
correct.
Just confirmation. All right.
It's being considered by you tonight, by Roswell tonight, by Alpharetta tonight, and be considered by Sandy Springs on Wednesday.
Gotcha.
And the only thing I would add too, both as a statement, but also confirm, Chris, you read about, and I know it's part of the little bit of heartburn Johns Creek had was with Fulton County updating their system. And you've heard some people talk about, well, it's duplicate, that Fulton County is going to spend tax dollars and then we're spending additional tax dollars. But from what I understand, if we do the system in North Fulton, and then there's already been talk, and I've talked to some elected officials in Fulton County, there can be a sharing agreement where Fulton County won't have to spend as much money on their system if there's a carryover with this system, so it's not a double cost.
Barry, you're absolutely correct there. I can tell you that there doesn't have to be a redundancy in cost. There doesn't even have to be a redundancy in system design or build out. I had a good conversation a week and a half ago with the interim county manager, Mr. David Ware, who welcomed the city's participation with his staff to come up with a solution that works, that makes sense in a partnership for both organizations. In fact, the meeting request with Ms. Barrett's office, who's the director of Fulton 911, that invitation process to start a discussion between these four cities in Fulton County went out earlier today. So I can tell you that Mr. Ware opened the door. The four city managers or city administrators respectively have committed their staff to be open and available to do that, and they support it. So within the next 10 days, those discussions in earnest should start. There's no reason to build an apple on top of an apple. It just doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll open up for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 13025.
Second.
All right, got a motion for approval from Councilmember Hewitt, second by Councilmember Kuntz. And any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, next thing I need is a motion to adjourn into executive session to
So
discuss land acquisition.
Seconded.
I have a motion to second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous too. reconvene.
Make a motion to reconvene?
All in favor, please say aye. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a motion, and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, do I have a motion, we adjourn?
Mr. Mayor, just before we do that, just to put on the record that we entered into executive session and did, because of a well-placed and well-timed refusal, we didn't come out. And that's the reason we did adjourn the executive session.
Okay.
No, with no substantive business occurring.
Okay. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 I did have three.